Irish folklore has an abundance of morals, traditions, and legends that raise generations of people and still have an effect on many today. From St. Patrick and leprechauns to how to treat an illness and respect the dead, Irish folklore is recognized as the traditional art, literature, knowledge, and practices that are disseminated largely through oral communication and behavioral example. Daithí O'Hogan, an Irish author and professor, was a curator of these stories and sought to share his findings and explanations with others. O'Hogan was a great lover of Irish culture and folklore through his life from 1949 and passing away in 2011, living to the age of 62. During this lifetime, he earned a master's degree for his studies in philosophy, English, and Irish, and later completed a doctorate at the University College Dublin. While teaching at the same university and doing research in the Irish folklore collection, a majority of his research can be found in the book The Hero in Irish Folk History. This aided him in categorizing heroes from the many legends and abundant history. Saints and religious figures, political and social leaders, liberators, outlaws, poets, and the extraordinary type who exceed the category of normality. He made chapters dedicated to each of these groups in his book. Some heroes included St. Bridget, St. Patrick, and Daniel O'Connell.
Daniel O'Connell played an important part in Irish history. He was born on the 6th of August 1775 in County Kerry, Ireland. He died on the 15th of May 1847. He was in Italy on a pilgrimage to Rome. As requested, his heart was buried in Rome and the rest of his body was buried in Dublin. During his 72 years, Daniel O'Connell was well known for three different aspects: his duel with John Narcott Destrier, the County Clare election, and Catholic emancipation. Destrier, a known good shot, challenged O'Connell, thinking O'Connell would either be labeled a coward by not accepting and lose supporters, or he would lose his life. O'Connell accepted, and when the time came, Destrier shot way too low. O'Connell hit him, inflicting a wound that would a few days later become the cause of his death. O'Connell would notably pay for both his daughter and his wife in the years to follow. The second event was the County Clare election of 1828. O'Connell was a Catholic lawyer that got voted into a Protestant parliament. The laws needed to be amended in order for him to have a seat in Parliament. Gaining this seat in Parliament was another push towards Catholic emancipation. O'Connell fought for Catholic emancipation and set up the Catholic Rent in order to support the cause. He was a front-runner of this campaign that was finally achieved in 1829. Catholic emancipation, the Clare election, and his duel with Destrier were three of the things that would lead Daniel O'Connell not only into Irish textbooks but also Irish folklore.
Daniel O'Connell was so popular in Irish history that he made his way into Irish folklore too. In the book Immortal Dan, Daniel O'Connell in Irish Folk Tradition, the author, Rhiannoch Eogan, explains how and why O'Connell transitioned into a folklore hero. Many of the stories told about him originated from those who actually knew him or those whose parents or grandparents knew him. In the process of passing down folklore about O'Connell, songs were written about him as well as narrative and oral folklore stories were shared. Here's one of those stories originally told in Irish. The old Irish speakers, who have nearly all gone now, had a lot of time for the name and memory of the great Daniel O'Connell. They had such respect for Daniel that he was like a small god to them. Even amongst the most ignorant people who ever lived in this district, and to the present day, they knew 100 things about the Liberator, and when they gathered around the fire in the long winter evenings, they would often tell stories about all he had done and achieved for poor Ireland, and how he had conquered and overcome Ireland's bitter enemies. We heard stories accusing him of bad things, but I won't bother with those because the wisest person is not without fault. This particular account is the perfect example of how the Irish truly idolize O'Connell. In fact, few negative stories were ever told about him. Though O'Connell was a lawyer and politician, the stories told of him were focused on his bravery and leadership to emphasize his status as a hero and the liberator.
Heroes in folklore are varied, as author O'Hogan shows in his novel. Some are even inspired by real people and historical events, such as Daniel O'Connell. In contrast to hard historical people and events, stories told about people like St. Bridget push the imagination to more fairy tale-like scenarios. One legend goes to describe how she managed to get land to make a monastery out in Kildare. After being refused by the local prince, she asked for an area that only her cloak would cover. The prince agreed, knowing that the land it would cover would be minimal. So Bridget, unfaltered, took off her cloak and laid it on the ground while it miraculously began to cover the territory the prince ruled over. He begged for her to stop, which she did, and was given the land to build on as they originally agreed. This legend has many slight variations from being passed down over the ages and traveling from person to person and place to place. After centuries of storytelling and historical events, Irish folklore continues to flourish in Ireland and make its way around the world, and surely will only continue to grow.